Welcome back, everyone. Today we'll be joined by a special guest to talk about his book, as well as the attempted assassination of President Trump over the weekend, and what the coming months look like with all of this in mind, leading up to the coming election. All of this and more coming up on Generation Rogue. All right, so as I said, we'll be joined by a special guest today, Drew Allen, also known as the Millennial Minister of Truth. If you don't know him yet, you're in for a treat. Among many of his accomplishments as a political analyst, he is a new commentator on the DailyClout network. His show is The Drew Allen Show on DailyClout. If you haven't seen it yet or you haven't subscribed, I highly recommend you do so. Also, if you didn't know, Drew is also an author, and today we are going to be talking about his book, America's Last Stand. And we're going to be discussing his ideas in that book within the context of the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Before we get into that, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Native Path. Let me tell you guys, I've been taking their daily collagen in the morning with my coffee, and I've been feeling so energized and so productive. I heard our CEO, Dr. Wolf, talking about how it makes her want to work out, and I feel that. Seriously, I hate working out, and I've been feeling energized enough lately to actually start working out. So it's been great. So Native Path Collagen is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners. Plus, it's third-party tested for heavy metals, ensuring purity and safety. That's so important considering that there are so many products out there on the market that can't say the same. It's completely flavorless. Native Path Collagen can be added to anything: coffee, smoothies, oatmeal, you name it. Its peptide formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily, and it mixes perfectly without clumping. My other favorite product from Native Path is their Collagen PM. If you're like me and your brain is going a million miles an hour while you're trying to sleep at night, Native Path's Collagen PM has helped me get the best sleep I've had in years, and naturally. So it's been awesome. Native Path offers amazing bundle deals. You can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars of collagen sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice. Plus, they offer an 800 number for any questions about usage, recipes, or other ingredients, and you'll actually speak to a real person who is ready to help, not some robot on the phone where you have to wait on hold for 15 minutes or whatever. Right now, when you visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout, you can stock up on Native Path Collagen for up to a massive 45% off today. Plus, free shipping. Every order comes with that 365-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it risk-free today. Reclaim your life, rejuvenate your spirit, and glow with vitality. Don't miss this incredible deal. Again, visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout and start your transformation today. So, without further ado, let's bring on our guest. This is not our guest. She's bothering me again today. Let's bring on our guest, Drew Allen. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are going to be joined, as you can see, by a special guest, Drew Allen. And welcome, Drew, first of all.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. I'm really happy we were able to set it up, and I've been looking forward to talking.
Good. So first things first, I want to welcome you to the DailyClout Network. And again, we're very excited to have you and be featuring your commentary. And I want to talk to you today about your book. I confess I have not read it yet, so I think we can just dive right in and start there. Tell us about America's Last Stand for those who don't know. What's the synopsis?
Well, I mean, I make the urgent case to reelect Trump over Biden or any other Democrat in the 2024 election. And, you know, so much has been said in the past regarding elections, right? This is the most important election of our lifetime, that it almost loses its impact because it's been said so many times. So I felt like it was very important to explain to people why this really is the most important election of our lifetime, just exactly what is at stake. And of course, to counter the immense propaganda from the left. You know, I mean, I explain in the book the origins of even the Democrat lies about Trump being a threat to democracy. We are so familiar with this just trite, overused. I mean, it's just so nauseating to hear because it's so meaningless. And, you know, we're a constitutional republic and they don't even understand any of it to begin with. But they were making those claims in 2016 before he was ever even elected, before he was ever stepped foot in the Oval Office. The Democrats had already leveled this accusation that he was a threat to democracy. How could he be a threat to democracy when he'd never served in public office before? I mean, where did they get this from? It was, of course, the Clinton campaign and the DNC and the outgoing Obama administration that engaged in a literal coup. And I don't think that people, I mean, it's hard because time and so many other things have happened since then, kind of our feelings and emotions kind of settle on matters. But people should realize that what happened in 2016 with Trump-Russia collusion, that was an interruption of the peaceful transfer of power. I mean, they tried to subvert the will of the American people by, it didn't work in the end, but by accusing Trump through a dossier of salacious, unproven claims that weren't true at all, that Trump somehow was some Putin asset and Putin got him in there. I mean, that happened, and they used that to try to oust him from office after he was elected. So there are a lot of things like that in the book that I really dig deep into to remind people what's going on so that we can recalibrate and understand from a historical perspective and have a sense of confidence about such statements like this is important. We have to reelect Trump in this election, and so on and so forth.
So you talk a lot about, kind of these false claims and the propaganda against Trump, and kind of talking about how a lot of them are unsubstantiated. What are the mechanics of the way that you talk about, not only are these things not true or unproven, but what are the reasons why people should vote for Trump in addition to not believing those things?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at what happened on Saturday night. For example, in Pennsylvania, you had somebody who obviously was inspired by hatred of Trump. Where did it come from? I don't know. I've never heard any hatred towards Trump. I can't figure it out. They must have listened to the Drew Allen show where I talk about how great Trump is all the time. That inspires hatred of Trump. But, thankfully he missed. But you had this obviously very serious attempt to kill and take out the former president and, our Republican presidential candidate. Kate, you have to ask your question again, because, I told Kate before I came on here, her own show, actually, that I just recorded my own show I'll just tell you, I'm a humble guy. I'll eat it. I recorded my show for an hour. That's all on the show is, right? I didn't record the show because I didn't actually hit the record button because I'm using, this new thing I'm not familiar with, and I just forgot. So anyway, I will pick up where I left off, Kate, but ask me that question into your question one more time.
So you talked about this, hatred towards Trump and this kind of organized information campaign, or disinformation campaign rather, about, how Trump's evil and he's a threat to democracy and all of these things. And you talk about those things in your book. What is the argument that you take, or the arguments that you take in favor of Trump? Not just, all of these things that they're saying about him are wrong, but why should you vote for him in addition to not believing those things?
So a few things. Fundamentally, what we're experiencing right now at this moment in American history, it couldn't be more clear, is that the U.S. Constitution, right? What makes America so unique and great and wonderful and gives us this opportunity and prosperity, and which has made us the greatest country, not just presently, but in the history of mankind. That is because our Constitution uniquely asserts that we, the people, are master and those in government are servant. It limits the power of the government, right? And so what we have happening right now, and there are, Republicans that don't care either, that are part of that government establishment. You have people in government, because it's human nature, They believe that they are your master and my master, that they want to rule over us. See, they want to shred the Constitution and regressively take us back to that place which most human beings have been familiar with, which is a place of servitude. And this election is about the American people rising up and saying, no, we are going to take this ship, right, that set sail from that harbor, in 1776 with the Declaration of Independence, away from tyranny, that you have turned back towards, tyranny. And we are going to wrest this vessel back. We're going to continue to pursue our destiny as free people, as people who believe that our rights come from our Creator. They aren't divvied out to us and taken away like we saw during the COVID era by politicians and bureaucrats. You don't have that right. And that's what this is about. And that's what Trump represents. And beyond that, it's about pushing back and sending a clear message to people in Washington, D.C., throughout politics, in the Democrat Party, even in the Republican Party, that we've had enough of you. We are not going to let you do what you did after Ronald Reagan and, force conservatism, out, try and make it extinct, which conservatism, by the way, is basically originalism. We believe in those fundamental principles of which this nation was built. That's pretty much it. We believe in the Constitution, the rule of law, and all of that. And, these people have tried to interfere in multiple elections now. 2016 with Trump-Russia collusion. 2020 with, they suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop story. You had 51 former intelligence officials that lied and signed their name to a piece of paper that said it was, another Russian, misinformation attack and hit. And you had the impeachments and all of this stuff, J6, and I can go on and on. And so there have to be consequences for what they've done to this country. And nobody has paid any price. You have the Secret Service director right now who refuses to step down after what happened on Saturday, right? There is no accountability. So where does accountability come from? It comes from us in November. And that's where it has to start. And we have to send a message saying, no, enough is enough. We're not going to allow this anymore.
Yeah. So going into the events of Saturday, why do you think that your book is more relevant than ever after this happened over the weekend? What are the things that are really like even more in the spotlight, but also like what additional thoughts would you add to that? Like if you wrote the book after this happened, what I guess thoughts would you add to your existing ideas in this book?
Yeah, it's providence really that nothing that's happened has changed my book per se. The only thing would be what's happened since the book was published is more examples to prove the arguments that I've already made. So for example, and I think I've got a piece coming out at the Blaze, hopefully, tomorrow or maybe later today about this, but I have a chapter in my book called 21st Century Jim Crow. And in that chapter, I describe how the same Democrat Party, right, that was responsible for those laws and creating this culture in which Black Americans were not included in society and in which they were, frankly, had no rights. The entire legal system was set up against them as well in the South. That today, that same party that now claims to be the champions of Blacks, that was responsible for Jim Crow, they have now replaced Blacks with Republicans, with MAGA, with Trump. We have seen this time and time again. And the Democrat Party is, at this point, a party that is consumed by a type of really frightening violence. And it didn't start even in 2016. It's existed before that. I would remind people, and let me segue this way. We just experienced the maddening media after the Trump-Biden debate do an absolute 180 and suddenly tell us that we were right, that Joe Biden was mentally incapacitated. But the weeks leading up to that, they told us that the videos that we were talking about that showed exactly what we ended up seeing on that debate stage, they called them cheap fakes. They dismissed us as conspiracy theorists, right? They said that, you know, Joe Biden had vitality. And then after the debate, they say, oh, okay, yeah, we agree with you. Now, this same media, these same individuals who did that, they have, like we've been discussing for the past 8 years, been engaging in absolutely irresponsible and untrue rhetoric, comparing Trump to Hitler, people like me to Nazis, and so on and so forth, spreading this narrative. And now it's resulted in, and I'm surprised it took this long for something like this to happen, quite honestly. Now it's resulted in an actual assassination attempt against Trump. And the media that feigned shock when they saw what we saw on that debate stage with Joe Biden's just mental, total incoherence. Now they're feigning shock that something like this could happen, that an assassination attempt could be carried out against Trump, and it's not their fault. And yet we saw a Bernie Sanders supporter that was incited to violence, that used the very rhetoric from the Democrat Party in 2017 against Trump. He tried to kill congressional Republicans that were practicing baseball for the annual baseball game against Democrats. Steve Scalise, the representative from Louisiana, Republican, nearly died. We had Rand Paul, whose ribs were broken by his neighbor, who was a Democrat, who on social media had also expressed, you know, his support for the Mueller investigation. Fry Trump's gonads is what he posted. And so there is a history, a documented history, a trend of violence against Republicans. You had an attempted assassination of Justice Kavanaugh. That was an individual from California who made his way to the neighborhood of Kavanaugh and his family with rope and a gun and everything else. And he was apprehended, thankfully. That was not a Republican. So the elephant in the room right now in America is that there is a culture of acceptable violence against Republicans. And that is what 21st Century Jim Crow, that chapter, is all about. And I go through and point out these episodes to say how scary the situation is. I am far more afraid of my neighbor than I am the federal government itself. I've seen videos of just left-wing individuals who have been radicalized in school, from the media and everywhere else, who were on camera saying they are upset that the bullet missed Trump. And then they say what, Kate? They say, but I fear political violence. So let me get this straight. Somebody tries to assassinate Trump and you fear for your life. Like, I mean, just make it make sense, please.
Yeah, what I find not surprising and yet still interesting about this is this kind of pattern that we've seen since COVID of just gaslighting, you know, like during COVID, it was, you know, safe and effective. Vaccines are safe. They prevent, you know, the disease. They do all of these good things. And then now you have this kind of backtracking of like, well, we didn't actually say that, or you weren't actually forced, or you weren't this or that. And now it's kind of the same thing with the Democrat reaction to after the campaign. It was like, well, I mean, Biden's old, but he's nice. Or it's like, you know, after the assassination attempt, it was like pulling quotes from Biden saying that, you know, that Trump should be, what did he say? He said like Trump should be in the like target or in the,
yeah, the bullseye. I said bullseye.
In the bullseye. Yeah. In the bullseye. And all the Democrats are like, well, that's taken out of context, or, you know, like we weren't actually comparing him to Hitler and all of these things. And so it's this continuous gaslighting. With that said, though, you know, what would you say to, just playing devil's advocate here, to, you know, people our age, for example, who just kind of hear all these things from maybe their friends, maybe their, you know, peers or other people, you know, bringing up things like January 6th and Operation Warp Speed. You know, like if you hear someone who's pro-Trump, you know, people who are normally on the left would say something like, well, Trump was responsible for Operation Warp Speed, or Trump, what about January 6th? You know, like you can't be pro-Trump because he wasn't, you know, he's responsible for these things. So what would you say to those people who are kind of just not really doing their research, or just kind of like absorbing the headlines?
Yeah. You know, when it comes to, J6, and I've heard Democrats, of course, predictably try and compare J6 to now we have a new J13th, July 13th, the assassination attempt. And the idea that a bunch of people taking selfies in the Capitol building that were permitted entry, by Capitol Police is the same thing and on the same scale as an assassination attempt on Trump is absolutely absurd, and it's sickening. You can't do it. I mean, we have to push back on these people and go on the offense and not let them set the narrative and tone. We can't be on the defense all the time. And, people have to do a lot of soul searching right now, and they have to find a way to recalibrate because, look, I am not a partisan hack in the sense that here's what I would note, for example, as a difference. And the Democrat Party, historically, the Democrat voter is downstream from the party, right? So they never push back. They don't restrain the party in any way. So, for example, and the word will trigger controversy, but don't worry, it's not a conversation about that right now. But with the abortion issue, right? The Democrat position not long ago that Hillary Clinton supported even was, abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. And now they encourage it. They want it to be frequent, used like birth control. They want it to be taxpayer funded as well. So they couldn't have gone further from their position of safe, legal, and rare to now supporting infanticide, the party at large, up until birth. And how is it possible that the position could change that much, right? I mean, so that happens in the Democrat Party. I mean, like the gender stuff, right? They support little Johnny, your 11-year-old nephew or son, chopping off his pee-pee, when he's 11 years old. Now, this person can't buy cigarettes or alcohol or drive a car or do anything on his own, but they want to take the parent out of the equation. How can a Democrat voter support that party that supports that, right? They just go along blindly with the party. So in my case, it's not that way. This could happen to the Republican Party, but it's not the case right now. You cannot come out and take positions like that and find support in the party. We're not necessarily downstream from the Republican Party like that. There's a little bit more consistency because we have principle and so on and so forth. It doesn't mean Republicans are perfect. I'm not saying that at all. But a lot of people have fallen into this trap that George Washington warned about during his farewell address, which was we didn't have people need to think this way too. We didn't have political parties when George Washington was elected president. They were starting to come into existence, but they didn't yet exist. And he warned when he left office of the dangers of political party, that you are loyal to party over country, and that these parties over time, they will lose their way out of selfishness. And so I am not somebody who looks at this world and what I want as somebody who is purely devoted to party. I'm a pragmatic person at the end of the day. I look at what is good for the country, what has worked in the past. And that is how we have to make decisions. Donald Trump is the perfect example of this. He is not a quote unquote conservative like me. This is somebody who has ended up being a pretty conservative president, who has done a lot of things that I agree with because he's practical, because he's a business guy that's focused on what works. So the nuclear family, for all of human history, we have determined that that is the way to keep society together, to keep it whole. It is what we aspire to and support. That is the position that now people on the left, who are regressive, by the way, they think that it's like
too traditional
Yeah. It's a bunch of men kind of trying to keep you women down, I don't know. It's absurd. So we need to focus again on what is good for society and what works. Illegal immigration. It's not about what's good for somebody in El Salvador that just wants to come here and take welfare. The objective of immigration is to improve this country. So, this argument they make about we have to help the world, but no, these other countries, by the way, need to have their own little 1776. We did this. We've gone through this. And we have created a country, or we had a country, of course, that we're on the verge of losing right now, that became the best because of these ideas. And we are importing the failed ideas and people who cling to these failed systems into our country instead of encouraging and exporting what works to the rest of the world. You see, we should be one of the problems with illegal immigration is we are destroying hope for other countries because we are not in the long term forcing these very places to fight to improve their own countries, places of birth, and so on and so forth. And that really should be the role America plays, in my opinion. I mean, I am an America First guy who our primary responsibility and only responsibility really is to this country. But if we want to do good in the world, we should be exporting what has worked here elsewhere and encouraging that to grow.
Before we continue, I want to recognize and thank our valued sponsors at the Wellness Company. This team of renowned medical professionals, including Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. James Thorpe, Dr. Harvey Risch, Dr. Drew Pinsky, and many other truth-seeking doctors, they have crafted the Wellness Company's Medical Emergency Kit, which contains life-saving medications so you can be prepared for times of crisis. In this kit, you get a little booklet that explains what each medication is, what its side effects are, what it's used for, so that you can be informed about what you're getting. This kit contains a life-saving medication such as antibiotics, amoxicillin, ivermectin, Z-Pak, you name it. In addition to the Wellness Company's wonderful medical emergency kit, which I always have on hand in my house, the Wellness Company has crafted the COVID emergency kit. This is the contagion kit, and again, you get a booklet that explains each and every medication you're getting. This kit contains ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, a nebulizer, and everything you'll need to combat contagions should they be spreading around, especially with talk of bird flu and the next potential pandemic. But pandemic or not, it's great to always be prepared for a time of crisis. Go to dailyclouthealth.com and use promo code Kate for 10% off. That's dailyclouthealth.com, promo code Kate for 10% off. And thank you for the Wellness Company for being our sponsors. Speaking of crisis, the divisive political machine coming out of Washington, D.C. is having a growing impact on our family, friends, businesses, and bank accounts. Inflation is higher than it's ever been. The cost of goods nationwide has skyrocketed, and nations all over the world are starting to abandon the US dollar. So what do we do about it? Kirk Elliott, PhD, offers expertise in economics and investments to help protect our futures. Because let's face it, the government is not going to protect us, so we need to protect ourselves. Kirk Elliott, PhD, is a trusted name in investment management and wealth preservation. He specializes in helping individuals protect and grow their wealth with a focus on precious metals and other commodities as long-term solutions to safeguard assets against inflation, market volatility, and political instability. What's been happening in our country for the last 4 years has really taken a toll on people, and the government has no solutions. So I'm offering you a solution. Visit dailycloutsilver.com. With expert guidance, individuals can build diversified portfolios that provide a hedge against economic and political uncertainty, ensuring a secure future for you and your families. Visit dailycloutsilver.com. Yeah, I totally agree. I think I keep hearing this narrative that America first, this America first stuff is like selfish. And I'm like, how can it be selfish if you want the country to be successful, right? Like, how can we be successful if we're sending money to Ukraine and all these other countries instead of, like, I don't know, taking care of our veterans or, taking care of our own people and our healthcare and all these things? And so, yeah, I totally agree with that. So let's talk a little bit about your show and kind of the things that you hope to cover in your show. Are the things you were just talking about some possible topics perhaps for the future? What are you planning on covering on the Drew Allen Show on Daily Clout?
Well, what I am really working hard to do, and we are all evolving in our own way, right? I mean, I am trying to make myself useful to the country, right? Um, what I want to do is, I mean, I want to be honest, obviously. Um, you know, I don't want to become America's preacher or America's shrink per se, but I do want to be somebody who has the ability and restraints and self-control to kind of pull back and give people, obviously, the hard truth. I'm not here to pander to anybody. I'm not going to make everybody happy. That's not my job. But I'll give you a perfect example. In my show that I didn't record for an hour today, I
Terrible.
I was making an observation, right? So for example, one of the things that kills us in the Republican Party is our acceptance of this like space of negativity that we seem to just live in. We have this defeatist mentality. We play into like we are always doom and gloom. And perfect example, Donald Trump comes out and announces that JD Vance is his VP pick. Now, personally, I was asked about this on a show last week, who I wanted based on what was offered, and I said JD Vance. So that is my subjective personal choice anyway. I liked JD Vance for a number of reasons. Okay. You have people on the right? So let's just go through a couple things. We had Trump that survived an assassination attempt. A miracle. A miracle. Yes, the assassination is one thing, but he survived. That is something to be happy about. We have Donald Trump, who is playing the media like only he knows how, playing the Biden administration. After the assassination attempt on Trump, what did Trump do brilliantly? He comes out and puts a message out demanding that the Biden administration provide Secret Service finally to RFK Jr. And what does the Biden administration do? They're on the defense. They have nowhere to go. And so they come out and are prompted by Trump to announce finally that they are going to provide Secret Service to RFK Jr. That's a win. Eileen Cannon, the judge in the Mar-a-Lago documents case, she is a patriot. And I have to believe that she was also encouraged and emboldened to make the decision on Monday to dismiss that documents case because Jack Smith was illegally appointed. But that came on Monday. She could have waited. Could have happened another day. But, I think that what happened on Saturday has emboldened and given courage to a lot of Americans to finally recognize just how dangerous the situation is and to get involved, to get active, to be bold. So these are good things happening, right? And we have the open border, all these problems on the left to fight about. And you've got people on our side that are prominent on the right that are upset about JD Vance. Like the only thing they can think to attack and criticize right now in all the world is the fact that JD Vance is a bad pick for them. And I just look at this type of thing and behavior and I think, why is everyone looking to just be negative all the time? Why do we have to do the circular firing squad on the right? You want unity? You can't have unity with the left. Let's be clear about that, unfortunately. Not with what they promote right now. But we can't even get unity in our own party to support and be proud about the fact that we have a winning ticket. The show's things like that too. I'm not looking to try and make everybody feel good all the time.
Yeah, the hard truth. I like that a lot. I think we need more of that. Just, I think there's a lot of people care too much about people's feelings. It's like sometimes you just need to hear it how it is, right? Yeah. So I think that's helpful. So thank you for your insight today. I'll have to order your book pronto and give it a read. I'm sure you'll be discussing all of these things more on your show. And yeah, I'm happy that you were able to hop on today. For those watching, if you haven't already, you can head over to that Rumble channel. I'll be linking it in the description. And Drew, thanks so much for joining. We're excited to see more of your content on DailyClout.
Hey, I appreciate it, Kate, and thank you so much for hitting the record button.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you want to support the show, head to our locals page. Also, head to Best of Daily Clout and subscribe on Substack so you don't miss important updates from our commentators. Of course, you can sign up for our free newsletter at the bottom of our homepage. Please support our sponsors, the Wellness Company at dailyclouthealth.com, promo code Kate for 10% off, Native Path at getnativepath.com/dailyclout for a massive 45% discount, and Kirk Elliott Precious Metals at dailycloutsilver.com. Stay awake, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.